still one of the high states that is not good for us, but maybe we can get on that trend and better things happen.
Well, David, if you will, for just a moment, in case we have any newcomers in our area watching the program or listening to us on WRJB this morning for the first time, joining us by way of WRJBradio.com, give me some history about the Benton County Sports Hall of Fame, Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame, the actual name. But how did this all come about a few years ago?
Well, there was some schools around our area, joining counties that had gotten into the High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And I guess I've told this story a lot. Jackie McGee, which is a cousin of mine, and I think a lot of people know Jackie. He's coached at Camden. He's coached at Brewston. He's very active in all sports. And he had talked to me about Benton County and Camden need to get a Hall of Fame started, and we talked, and finally he convinced me, and so with his help, as you know, we got our feet on the ground, got the Hall of Fame going, and trying to get it established and set up. And Jackie came to us a bunch of our meetings early on and guided us and helped us, and that was, I guess, when we started in 2013. The first induction class we had, I believe, was 2014, and he helped us get it going, and we got a board that was just great, and couldn't done it without everybody's help, and the people in the area, especially the merchants and everybody that supported us and sponsored us. It's just unbelievable of the help and that we got from everybody, and it's just kind of a shame that we've had to postpone it the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I know there was a time a few years back you had residency up in Kentucky, in the town where you were living in at that particular point in time, David. They also had a strong sports hall of fame, I believe.
They did. They had there, when I was there at Russellville, Kentucky, they was a really good athletic academic school. Had a son to go there and played sports. And I was involved in it a lot with the sports there in Kentucky. And they established a Hall of Fame, and just want to say my son was one of the first ones in the Hall of Fame up there.
Yeah. So, well, you're talking about the pandemic, and I know 2 years ago, about this time of the year 2020, we were making plans, like we always do, for the banquet in May each year down at the Lakeshore. We were making the early stages for planning for that in 2020. Then all at once, that pandemic, it just shut everything down.
It did, Flash. It just, everything. Lakeshore is where we've always had it, and it's a great place. It's just unbelievable to have a place here in Benton County like Lakeshore, to have something like that in. Their food's outstanding. The area and the site down there is just beautiful, and we're fortunate to have that. And they, during the summer, they have kids down there that's involved in the church organization and that sort of thing. And in the past, after we had our banquet, usually they stopped having them, and when they went to their regular business. But anyway. They've worked with us in every way that you could ask them to. And this year, right now, we have canceled or postponed or canceled the date in May for this year. We haven't said we're not going to have it. I was talking, I think I discussed it with you, was talking a week or so ago when I talked to the Lakeshore people, and also talked to Mark Florence, superintendent of the schools. And we've got a place to have it if we are able to have it later on during the year. And Lakeshore even said that we could have it in the fall or winter. They was going to have some other events there, and we could have that there. So we don't have a date yet, but there is a possibility.
Well, we certainly hope so, and we're looking forward to that. And of course, we haven't been able to have the banquet to recognize some fine sports individuals from the Benton County area. Hopefully we can do that into the fall. We certainly Hope so. But as we look back on the history of the Benton County High School, and I still call it the Sports Hall of Fame, which it is, but the official name is Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame.
It is. It's like we all started out with the Sports Hall of Fame, and there was a reason, that we went with athletics, and I understand it. I don't know if I can remember all the details or not, but Coach McDowell was very strong for that name, and I think it fits because we wanted to get it to where we got people that's boosters and helpers and that didn't play sports, but we've got some in the Hall of Fame, so it's involved with all athletics, and so I think that's a good part of it too.
When the Hall of Fame came into existence, 7, 8, 9 years ago now, David, and even to this day in 2022, what is the mission statement?
The mission statement is Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame will establish an organization to honor individuals who have made a significant achievement in their respective sports careers, and as a result of such achievements, those individuals have made significant contributions and brought recognition to any of the Benton County High School athletic programs.
And when we say Benton County High School, that includes Benton County, Big Sandy, of course, but also there was a time when Holiday had a high school, and we have some individuals from Holiday in the Hall of Fame.
There was, and I can go back in my day, and when Holiday had basketball, and had some guys from Holiday that played with us on the American Legion team, and they had some good athletes there. They really had some good athletes come through Holiday, and there's a few that's been put in the Hall of Fame, since we started. But Holiday and Big Sandy both had some real good athletes.
And even though we're talking about high school sports Hall of Fames here within Benton County, David, we've got a strong history of sports down through the years. You mentioned American Legion. We had a lot of people that played American Legion baseball. I remember American Legion baseball when I was a kid growing up. Larry used to bring me to the ballpark. He didn't want to, but he did. But at the same time, we have, the semi-pro baseball league at one time. That was really big, in the 30s or 40s?
Well, yes, and that was late 40s, early 50s. Because I was just young, and, that when they had that team, and I still remember a lot of the players, because my dad was a real baseball fan. And they'd go around during the day in a car and had a speaker on top of the car announcing the ball game that night, and they had crowds, just standing room, and we never missed a game, and it was to me, I just couldn't be in a better place, but I remember players that played there, and several of those players went to the major leagues, and real quick, if I got time, I'll give one's name that a lot of people remember, some won't. Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes played for a Hopkinsville team that was in the same league that Camden was. It was several teams in that league. And I saw Dusty play several games here in Camden. And if people that can remember, and I can remember it, in the 1954 World Series, Dusty Rhodes won the MVP of the series. He hit 2 game-winning home runs in the World Series. And he played with Willie Mays in that group, and they had a real good team, but I'll never forget Dusty Rhodes.
Was that the old New York Giants?
Old New York Giants.
Before they moved to San Francisco?
Before they went to San Francisco, yeah. They had a real good ball club.
Yeah. Where in those days, David, where was the ballpark here in Camden?
It was out... where the first baseball field when you turn in and go to the park.
Okay.
You go on up by where the National Guard Armory was, and right across from the National Guard Armory, right at the edge of the field there was home plate, and it was all going back toward the old swimming pool, and the football field, was there at that time. But the baseball park was at the far end of the parks out there now.
And at one time, the county fair was held pretty close in that location.
It was held, right there by by the armory, where the armory is, or the old armory, not where the new building is, but the old one up on the hill. So,
Well, David, how does the process work? And you're still accepting nominations right now, even though, the banquet in May has been put on hold at least till September, and we'll have more information as we go along. But how are nominations for the Hall of Fame, how is that accepted, and are nominations being accepted right now, even though we may not have a banquet in May?
yes, they are, Flash, as a. In the past, we've had, of course, when we've had our normal banquets and didn't have the issues that we've had the last couple of years, we always had to cut off for nominations for that particular year to be considered was February the 28th, I believe. This year and the last years that we hadn't been able to have the banquet, we've accepted nominations throughout the year. We don't have a deadline on them right now. And if we get started back and get things going, we'll have to put a deadline on them. And all that deadline is just the cutoff of that particular time, so that we'll have the opportunity to sit down and go through all of our nominations and discuss them and come up with who we're going to enshrine in the Hall of Fame. The nominations that's put in and somebody don't get in on the first time doesn't mean that that's the way it is. We keep the nominations for 10 years. That's in our bylaws. We'll keep those nominations for 10 years. And it doesn't matter how many nominations somebody has. We got people that's got more than one nomination from different individuals, And I just want to say this, with the situation that we've got now and the nominations we've had for the last, this is the third year, those nominations and everybody else's will be extended, if you follow what I'm saying. We got the 10-year that we keep them. Well, I don't think it would, and this is something as a board we hadn't discussed, but I don't think it'll be an issue. We'll just extend everybody's nomination the length of time that we're not having a ceremony.
I think that's a good idea. Now, you talk about the board. Where do your board members come from?
Board members are from all over the county. We've had board members from, of course, Camden, Holiday, and Big Sandy. So we've always tried to keep a good cross section of board members, representing our whole county.
And as you go back in the history of the Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame, there's been some good board members. Some have rotated off, of course, we've really tried to grow, and I think we have grown. And the pandemic hits 2 years ago, and that just put sort of a hiatus on things right now. But we want to get it back as soon as we can. We want to get it back to as normal as can be.
Oh yeah. Flash, I think you and I have been to some banquets around the local, the areas around here, and we've seen some good banquets and got a lot of ideas. It always helps to see other people and how they do. You get some good ideas, and I think we did that early on and got some good ideas. But I guess I'm a little prejudiced, but I think we've had some outstanding ceremonies and banquets. We've had some great speakers. We've had a full house. It's just been outstanding, I think.
You mentioned Lakeshore at the top of the program. Of course, they just do an outstanding job with the logistics, with the meal, and getting things in order in their big meeting room. So it's just a wonderful facility to have a banquet of this sort.
It is, and they go out of their way to set up everything for us and take care of us. I mean, they do an outstanding job.
Now, you talk about people, coming from all three schools, high schools, well, actually, still from Holiday High School. But as you research things, as you go back into the history of David, a lot of times there were great athletes back in the day. You and Dickie Bivens know more about that than I do. But, hey, some of those old records, they get lost over a period of time, don't they? And there's not much information.
They do, and that's a shame, but that's the way it was. And I even found that out in researching some college nominations. People we'd had nominated, we need some information from their colleges, just find it, and I found that out too. Not as prevalent as a high school, but it's back when at the time we're talking about, they just wasn't records kept, and it's a lot of it's just from people's memory and word of mouth, So, but it's not like that today. But back in those times, it was.
Now, there's some great athletes that have come through our schools in recent years, in the past few years. But we have a great individual in any sport. Let's just say, he's just graduated in the last couple of years. But there is a waiting period before he can actually be nominated for the Sports Hall of Fame. Is that right?
That's right. A person, a high school individual, has to be out of high school for 10 years before they can be nominated. A person that's in coaching or along in those type positions, they have to be retired at least a year from that to be nominated. And I think that's the only restrictions that we have. Well, if you're out of we do have pros. We have somebody's played pros. They have to be retired from the pros to be.
Of course. Yeah, of course. And through the history of the sports, as you know, of course, we love football, we love basketball, have a lot of good members representing those sports in the Hall of Fame, of course. But at the same time, we have things, we've had great kids down through the years that's made contributions in things like tennis and golf, and those sports.
Yes, we do. We sure do. And, we have some folks that's in the Hall of Fame that, for example, golf. But like you said, we've got some tennis. We've got, this girls volleyball team it's relatively new, but it's been here longer than you think, and we've got some outstanding athletes, in that. And another thing that we also had that we don't want to overlook is we've had some ladies that's done an outstanding job and made a career of getting education in cheerleading. And those type things are feeding our athletic departments and our teams and everything. We don't need to forget those type of people.
Absolutely. And, of course, young man right now, he's only a junior, and he'll be out of school next year in the class of 2023, and we'll look forward to him 10 years down the road. Will Douglas, a couple of state championships in cross country and track.
Exactly. Yeah, we've got, you just stop and think about it, we've got a lot going on in Benton County as far as athletics goes. We've had some outstanding athletics, and used to be just really football, basketball, and baseball. It's not that way anymore, and we need to keep that in mind.
And a lot of these young men and women that have gone through our Benton County schools, they have gone on to make contributions in their chosen career outside of the sports world, and that's important too.
It sure has. Matter of fact, I know we've talked about this before. We've got two people from Big Sandy. That got one that was athletic director at Southern Cal. He started a basketball program out in California at help me out, Flash. Pepperdine. And the two players that's in the Hall of Fame went out there with a coach, and one of them later on went to like I say, was athletic director of the Hall of Fame, was on the president's physical fitness program, had a dance team that went all over the world. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the guys from Faxon. And
Mr. Hall, I believe you're talking about, as a matter of fact. And you can go up on YouTube, Mr. Tillman Hall, and I think you can just Google his name or go up on YouTube, and I think there's no video that he did out there made years ago, a few years prior to his death.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I saw a special on Mr. Hall several years ago that was on 60 Minutes of some of the accomplishments that he had made.
Yeah. From Faxon, Tennessee.
Yeah. I remember, I guess, in the interview, and I may have this wrong, but I remember the interview, they were interviewing Mr. Hall, and all these things that he had done. He'd come up with a dance team, been athletic director, played college sports, and they asked him, said, how in the world does a boy from Faxon, Tennessee be able to be involved in so many different things and come up with and be successful in them? He said, well, all I can tell you is from Faxon, Tennessee, you better have a big imagination.
Well, we mentioned the records a while ago, David, about, and of course now, and John Taylor out the high school, Coach Taylor out there, a baseball coach, been an assistant football coach in the past. He's doing a fine job of trying to update records in all sports, and, we've talked to him many times about, records from the old days, and he's trying to get that database established where we will have something easy to access on down the road.
Coach Taylor has done an outstanding job and continues to do in that respect, and that's something he does because he loves it. He don't do it because he has to. And he's done so much work, and to me, I could sit and talk with him all day. He's that type of person, and he's building that library, for the school, and there's not too many schools that's going to have what he's got. Not too many going to have that, but he's done a good, outstanding job on that.
And I know he's still looking. He came out with this a year or two ago, as a matter of fact. He's trying to get old sports films, maybe some old football films from the old days. Those things are hard to come by.
They are.
Now then, in case, maybe old pictures. I'm sure he'd still like old pictures in case anybody's got any old black and white pictures.
Yeah, he wants everything. He and I's talked a lot, talked about things that I could remember that probably was not a record of any kind on. And he's done a lot of that. And I had some old 8mm tapes. I guess the first tapes that the football team ever had here in Camden. Tom Hardy bought us a 8mm projector, and he filmed the ball games for us to begin with. And I had some of those that I'd kept over the years. And matter of fact, Coach McDowell took some of them and put them on CDs for me. And he's got some of those, so it's just he's just one of a kind, but to do that on his own.
He really is, and we appreciate him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, midway through our program, let's take a break for the Apex Bank. We'll be back.
For more than 85 years, Apex Bank of Camden has built a tradition of local people serving local people. Although there have been changes over the years, this one thing remains the same. Hometown people that are your friends serving you every day to meet your financial needs. We want to see you grow and prosper. And when you ever have a need, you'll get personal attention right here at home, not in some far-off corporate office. Number one in customer service. Apex Bank of Camden, Benton County's best bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back this morning to Operation 7570 on this rather cool, brisk Saturday morning. Great to have you with us. Our topic today is the Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame. David Markham, the chairman of the board of directors of the Sports Hall of Fame, live in our studios today. Always a pleasure to have this gentleman to talk sports history, and he likes all sorts of history, as a matter of fact, like we all do. If you like sports history, you like other history too, don't you, David?
Exactly. Yes, sir, I do. I believe it goes hand in hand. Yeah.
And back in the day when you were growing up, we've talked about this in the past, but there was a time when kids, when they got out of school, you love your sports, and really for a long time, that was the only game in town before computers, cell phones, that sort of thing, other distractions.
Yeah, that was. And, I can recall when I was young that there'd be several places you could go around, different places, different people's houses where they had a basketball goal or something, and you could have some knockdown, drag-out games. And you look forward to it. That's just every day. That's what you wanted to do.
And I bet some of you boys coming from the old school up there back in the old days where New Beginnings Church is now, I bet sometimes you stopped down the mobile station, saw Mr. Bradley, saw the Bradley brothers, and had some good sports discussions.
Oh, that was unbelievable to have a Benton and codfish. That was really something. You didn't realize it at the time until it's not there, that what it was and how much fun it was and what it meant to you. But yeah, it was really something.
And he was a long-time supporter. Even when he retired, he would support all sports teams from Little League all the way up.
He sure did. And he'd always tell you if he didn't think he was right about something, he'd let you know.
Yeah, no question. Now, was it he or his brother that was a good tennis player back in the day? Do you remember that?
I believe it was Caleb.
Kellum? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think Kellum was a tennis player. I believe I'm right on
All
that.
right. Yeah.
I know. Real quick story.
Sure.
Benton, they called him Codfish. He went everywhere to a ball game. I remember Huntington and Parrish that one year had a real outstanding. Both of them had outstanding teams, and they played each other in Huntington one night. And I think it was may have been on a Thursday night, or it was when Camden wasn't playing. Well, he went to the ball game, and of course I remember I was in high school. Of course I didn't go to their ball game, but I was down in the bus station the next day, and I was asking him all about the ball game. And I said, was it a good game? And talking like that. And hard-hitting game, he said, hard-hitting. I said, it was? And he said, yeah. And he said, I tell you how hard-hitting it was. I said, the ball boy over on the sidelines was carrying some balls around. He said he dropped the football, and it went out on the field, and said there was 10 boys jumped on the ball.
Oh, man. Well, boy, we had some characters in those days, didn't we? Had some real characters.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
But speaking of sports history right now, we want to say congratulations to our Camden Lions and Lady Lions for their successful basketball season. We're about to go into tournaments this coming week, and the basketball tournament's going to be out here at Camden Central High School. I think the girls have their first game on Tuesday night. The boys will be playing on Thursday night, and we may go over the brackets. I think you're looking at the brackets right now. I think our girls will play East Hickman this Tuesday night on girls' side. That will be a girls' night of the tournament. And then the boys will play. They're the number one seed. The Camden boys will be playing on Thursday night, as a matter of fact, and there's a play-in game Monday, and they're going to get the winner of that play-in game.
Winner of Stewart County, East Hickman.
Okay, yeah. But what I was getting at, the bulk of the tournament out here at Camden Central High School, David, and I was trying to think, and you may remember this, it's been a long time, years and years, since Camden hosted a basketball tournament.
You know what, Flash, I was looking on Facebook on your deal there last night and saw that where you said it'd been over 50 years. And I can't say exactly, but we hosted the district tournament the first year that the new high school was built out here, where the junior high is now. And that was 1960.
Okay.
We hosted that district tournament that year. And that would be 62 years ago. But now, seems to me like we had another one.
Well,
after that,
the reason I bring up that 50-year mark, give or take a few years off that 50, the reason I bring that up is because I was talking with our buddy Smothers from Brewston and Hollow Rock on Tuesday. As a matter of fact, we'd actually gone over to Henry County to see Mike Greer's team play. There's another member of our local Sports Hall of Fame, and good luck to Mike Greer's his tournament team as they approach their tournaments over there. But Buddy was telling me that he remembers when he was in high school, and I think he graduated about 69 or 70. He remembers playing high school basketball, a tournament game out here, and that was the time when all schools, I don't care what your size was, all schools were lumped into one big group.
That's what I remember, Flash. I know that it was in the late 60s, early 70s. I know that they had they did have a tournament out here. I can't tell you the exact year, and that's probably the one he's talking about. But there was no classifications at that time, and it was just like, when I was playing, you didn't have a classification.
Yeah.
But I know after we had that first one, there was at least one more held out there, and it's probably the one Buddy's talking about.
Probably so. And the gyms, I'm sure, were filled from schools from all over in the day.
Yeah,
Boy, back in the day, those districts were big, weren't they? I mean, there were a lot of teams within one district.
Yeah, I can recall that at one time that we had around 20 teams in the district. Because, for example, Henry County and Carroll County had 5 high schools. That's 10 teams in 2 counties. Camden had 3, and it's just we had Buchanan, Henry, Cottage Grove, Paris, just
Palmersville.
Yeah. It was weekly. Yeah, we had there's a bunch of teams. I know that.
Yeah, quite a bit. A lot of ways to sort down. And, we're
Yeah.
talking about, now we have 3 officials. Back in those days with 2 officials, and the
Right.
3 officials have their hands full. Boy, back in the day, 2 officials had their hands
Yeah.
full.
Well, we had so many teams, Flash, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but we had so many teams during the district tournament. We had to start the tournament at 10 o'clock in the morning and play day games and night games in order to complete the tournament in a week.
Now, that's something I did not realize.
Yes,
That's
we sure
something
did.
I did not
Yeah,
realize.
it sure did.
Yep.
I remember games starting at 10 o'clock in the morning.
I do remember half-court girls basketball. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that was the way it was. But I'm sure there's some people that remember those day games, but I remember, just so many teams you had to.
Yeah. Well, as you're looking back, David, on the great sports history that you're a part of here in Camden, Benton County, who are some of the good kids coming through in the day? Who are some of the great kids you remember back in the day? Some from the past that we may not be familiar with like we have been the past 10, 15 years or so.
Well, I guess probably the first one I remember, I don't want to leave somebody out because that's very easy to do, but I guess the first one I remember that I saw play, and I was pretty young, but anyway, was the first player to ever, from Benton County, Camden, to ever sign with the University of Tennessee, was Pickle Medley. And Pickle went up and was the biggest running back on the team at Knoxville. And he was called a big wheel because he just ran over everybody. But he's the first one that comes to my mind. And, then I've seen, a lot of good athletes that, a lot of good athletes back then never had the opportunity to go to college. It just wasn't, colleges never saw some of the players that was playing. They didn't have the travel and communications and everything that we got now, and a lot of times people, they couldn't afford it. I mean, when they got to where they was old enough to work, they had to go to work, And I remember one player from Camden that I always thought had NFL stamped on his forehead if he had the right guidance and everything, was a football player, Carl Baker. He had everything he took except the guidance and the help and that sort of thing that he needed. But, you have several like that. My brother-in-law, Danny Boyd, was, basketball. And like I said, I got Danny to come out to play. He didn't get to start playing until he was a junior in high school because he didn't have no way to get back and forth from home. And he turned out a real good athlete. But, we had some good athletes come through.
And in case there's any newcomers watching this morning on Facebook or listening to us, Danny Boyd, tell us more about Danny Boyd. A lot of people may not know the story of Danny Boyd and what an important role he is in Benton County sports history.
Yeah. Well, like I say, Danny was an outstanding athlete, and he could have played anything. But he never had the opportunity because Danny had responsibilities on their farm, when he's growing up. He had to ride a school bus back and forth home. That's the only way he had to get to school and back. And we was always playing some pickup games, or if we had a chance during the day in school and we'd get up there, if it wasn't 15 minutes, we'd have some kind of game. And I played a lot of pickup games with Danny, just, choose up and play type things. And I could tell Danny was a good athlete, and I could tell that. And I asked Danny one day, I said, Danny, why don't you come out and play basketball with us? I said, you could help us. And he told me the reason why. He couldn't get back and forth home without riding the school bus. Well, I went to Coach Chester and told Coach Chester about it. And I told him, I said, we're fixing to have a little pickup game in the gym. Said, come in there and watch him. And said, you see for yourself. And he did. And we won there 5 minutes, and he stopped the game. And he come over and told me, he said, you take my car this afternoon, take Danny home from school, and you go talk to his mother, and you tell her that I said that I'll see to it that he gets back and forth to practice, to the games. There won't be no issues whatsoever if she'll let him play. I did, and she gave in and let him play, and so Danny came out. Not every playing, makes a difference because you got to know the game too. The playing an organized ball, and Danny started when he was a senior, and he was on a good ball club. He was a good player, and he ended up scoring 104 points at Clarksburg. When you score 104 points, I don't care if you by yourself. That's hard to do. And matter of fact, he set out the last 4 minutes and 20 seconds of the game.
I have heard the stories of that. I wasn't at the game. I was young. My brother Larry may have been. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I would say Camden won that ball game.
Camden did win it, and I'll never forget, but I wasn't at the game either. I was in school at Martin, and I picked up the paper the next morning, and of course I read the paper and the sports big headlines. Camden's Boyd scores 104 points. I thought it was a misprint. I really did. And I got on the phone and called a friend of mine, James Bell, that I played with all through school, and he was a year behind me. And of course I called James because he was playing, and James told me all about it, that did happen. And it was kind of strange thing. James scored 28 points. You never even heard about it.
And I think that was what, 1961?
1961.
So
yeah.
We just passed the 61st anniversary of that point. January
Exactly.
5th, January 5th of 1961, I believe.
Yeah.
When that took place. Of course, 11 years ago, we had the observance of the 50th anniversary out here at Camden Gym. Had Coach Chester here at the time, and members of his family, of course, and Danny, member of his family. That was a great event, and I was hoping we could have done one last year, but we couldn't because of the pandemic. But a record that stands 61 years, 104 points, I don't think that'll ever be broken.
No, I don't either. And it was a national record for years. The national record has been broken, but I don't believe it'll ever be broken now. I sure don't. Just don't see that happening.
How's Danny doing, by the way?
He's doing okay. He's doing okay. Lives in Carbondale, Illinois, and he still works. He's got a nurses or sells medical equipment, and he's still got a store. Still goes to work.
And he's the brother of Vicky, our receptionist up here at WRJB. Fine, outstanding family. And hopefully, if we get the banquet to rolling back, maybe we can just have him back sometime on down the road.
Yeah,
Sir, hope so.
he would like to come. That's for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned the mentors that folks in those days had. Wayne Chester, we lost Wayne a few years ago, and I think his wife passed away in the past year or so as well. But Brother Chester, what a great inspiration, what a mentor he was to so many young people, whether you went into sports or not.
Sure was. And we was talking about sports people that I saw during the time. He was one of them. His teammate, Sammy Larry, they're both in the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of people like that came through that was really great athletes, and it's contributed. Both of them ended up coaching.
Yeah, and of course, Brother Chester in administration in our school system for a long, long time, as a matter of fact. I think he was principal at Big Sandy for a while and came back up into Camden and went into the ministry as well with the United Pentecostal Church and moved and I forgot exactly what the title was, district administrator, district superintendent, but he made his impact known in the ministry as well.
He sure did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. David, how many members over the past 8 or 9 years, how many members are in the Sports Hall of Fame right now?
Flash, I think we've got 48 in now. And that's, like I say, the first class actually the first class we had enshrined was 2014. We started in 2013, but the first one we had was 2014, and we hadn't been able to have it the last 2 years. What is that? 9 years this year.
Right.
And so actually we've had 7 where we've had the ceremony. So we've got 48 people enshrined.
Now, when we get back, and hopefully we can do it this fall, we'll keep the people posted on that. But when we resume normal operations, I call it, of the Sports Hall of Fame, do you see maybe adding a couple of members or two, maybe to make up for the past couple of years, David?
Flash, I think we have to do that, and we may have to do that for a few years. to kind of, so to speak, get caught up on of missing these years that we've missed. At the same time, we can't have too many because we've got to make sure we've got the time and the room to have it. But we will definitely have to have some more than normal. I'll put it that way. To kind of get caught up. We still have a lot of good nominees that's in the system that needs considerations, no question about it. But still, we need to keep getting those nominations in. And if anybody out there thinks they know somebody that they'd like to recommend, don't hesitate. Get in touch with any of us. We'll get you a form. We'll have a place to pick it up. But we need everyone you get. That's our backbone of our system.
Yeah, and of course, if you need a form, we've got them on email. And even though the form may say deadline of February 2020, don't worry about that right now. Don't worry about that at all.
Just turn it in. Just get it in. But there's a lot of, especially the teams or things we were talking about a while ago in different teams for, like tennis, volleyball, golf, the track. We need those. We don't have many of those, and we've got some folks that deserve it, and we need to get them in.
Yeah, and of course, down the road, I think we're in about our 7th, maybe 8th year of volleyball in a couple of years. Those girls that were in those first volleyball teams, they'll meet that 10-year eligibility requirement. So, folks, keep that in mind as we go in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And also, I'd like to say this: there's we've had the girls' state champion softball team.
Correct.
That we need to look at that real close and make sure that we've got the things covered that we should have in those type of things. Not just that, I'm just pointing that out. But just let me emphasize that the board of directors can't put a nomination in. We can't do that. All we can do is take the nominations that you folks give us and look at them as a group and decide whether we feel like that they should be in or not. And if they're not put in the first year, it doesn't mean they won't get put in the next or 5 years from down the road. Or, that's why we keep them 10 years. And like I say, we're going to keep what we've got longer now because we hadn't had the opportunity to have them.
David, is there a place right now where people might go to and maybe see all the ones who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame the past few years?
Yes, we've got plaques on the courthouse, at the courthouse, Benton County Courthouse, that's on the wall of everybody that's ever been put in. They can go there and look at them and see them, and I think they really show up, in the courthouse. And if you want, like I say, if you want to go see them, go take a look at them.
They're down that long hallway as you would exit on the eastern side of the courthouse, I believe.
Right.
Trustee's office is on, sheriff's office is on one side, and the county mayor's office on the other.
Now, you'll have to go in the side,
Yes.
one of the side doors, to get in, but you can go out any of them. So, but if anybody wants to look at them, they're welcome to go look at them.
Well, David, in our closing moments today, anything here that you would like to add that we haven't talked about today as far as the Hall of Fame and requirements and things you'd like to say in closing, my friend?
Well, one thing I'd just like to mention that this is something we're going to have to talk about as a board as soon as we can get together is we need probably to put one or two on our board, and we need to be looking at some younger people that's interested, of doing this and helping us keep it going down the road. Some of us are getting a little older,
Yeah.
But we definitely need to be looking at that because we got to keep a good nucleus of people in our board to continue doing this years from now. And just want to throw that out. It's an important thing.
And I want to give a shout out as well to all the people who've served on the board, past and present, where we are right now, David, and not just the board members as well, but there's so many people behind the scenes. We talk about the great staff down at Lakeshore always make us feel so welcome when we have the banquets down there. But, Karen Hudson's worked very well with us, and the ladies down there that take up the tickets, that do the registration as you come in and put your name tags on, things like that. So just a lot of folks that work behind the scenes, and they need a good shout out today.
They sure do. And again, I want to say the sponsors and the merchants and the Karen Hudson's, we couldn't do it without them, that's for sure.
And we appreciate everybody. And so, hey, David, it's been a pleasure having you with in the studios today. Thanks for coming in, my friend.
Well, thank you, Flash. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
David Markham, our guest this morning on Operation 7570. He's the chairman of the Benton County High School Athletics Hall of Fame. And there is a Facebook page that you can go to find out more information. And you can send us a message on Facebook, as a matter of fact. Of course, so you know, that hadn't been updated like we should because of the pandemic situation. But, if you'll send a message and need an answer, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us today on Operation 7570. Hope you have a great Saturday, a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday morning at 8 o'clock.
Apex Bank of Camden, proudly serving the Benton County community since 1931. In recent years, through growth and expansion, we've taken that same